Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
It's your last chance to get gifts before the holiday, and right now at Old Navy, everything's up to 75% off with gifts from just $1, $2, $3, and $4. Buy online, pick up in store for free in 2 hours with extended store hours too. Get up to 75% off everything at Old Navy and OldNavy.com now. Valid 12/18 to 12/24, excludes gift cards, today only, 2-day only deals, register lane items, jewelry, and Zip Zap stuff gifting bins. Orders must be placed before 4 p.m. for same-day pickup, subject to availability and delays. Additional terms apply.
Welcome to Hell's Kitchen. This is the Russo-Souhan Show. It's been off for a couple of weeks because of our travels. Glad to be back at Hell's Kitchen, 9th and Nicollet, downtown Minneapolis, power salad bar, breakfast all day. You know the drill. $3 Shirley's happy hour. Michael, I know we have to talk about Matt Cullen. I know there's a lot of news, a lot of things to catch up on. And I usually don't get into these kind of subjects. And I don't want to sell anybody out too much, but I just went to the bathroom before the show and saw... I'm gonna be a stereotype. I'm gonna stereotype a millennial peeing with 2 hands on his phone.
Not me.
No, not you.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's the surprise. That's the punchline. It wasn't you.
Yeah. I was like...
Have you ever done that?
I'm sure I have. I'm definitely the... yeah. I definitely am a texter at the urinal guy and tweets.
Well, stop. Just
Half
stop
my best
right now.
tweets have been at the urinal. Where did this... Can we start over? God. I mean, usually I'm the one that, miffs you. I wasn't expecting... I've seen Jim way too much today. So I woke up at 3:44 a.m. and because I had to write a feature, and then I had to pick Jim up at 6:30 in the morning.
6:30.
And then we had to talk. We talked to these business leaders at a breakfast, which right away you got to feel sympathetic for the business leaders, that the 2 people that
seeing
are
us at that time in the morning.
One seeing us.
I mean, my wife leaves the house at that time in the morning.
We're the ones talking to them. These people should be talking to us. So I feel bad for them, but that's been a lot of Souhan today. We've definitely overdone the quota.
I would say a little Souhan's too much Souhan is the way I'd put it.
I will say at the Metro, and Jim could attest to this. I was, right when you walk into this beautiful country club that this thing was at, there's this big sign that says you can only use your cell phone for emergencies only. And
he starts getting the shakes.
Well, I immediately told him, I'm not abiding by that. And so throughout, Jim would. While Jim was speaking, I was always on my phone while we were speaking at the breakfast today. But the reason why was I knew that Cullen was happening today, and I was just kind of all right, when's it
that's
happen?
The reason you're on your phone. Yeah.
Well, it really was. And then you saw I got somebody texted me during it just to mess with me, which created for a little bit of a ruckus. So.
This is part of the Minnesota Sports Podcast Network. You can find all the shows at mnspn.com. We're also partnering, finishing up a partnership with the Mix Radio, which is going to put us on a lot of stations around the state. We'll expand our reach quite a bit. So we'll be telling you more about the details as we get them ironed out there, but it'll be a very interesting time for the network. Thanks to all the originals who stuck with us all this time as we got it rolling. Thanks to Surly Brewing, Jack Daniels, and Finlandia Vodka for sponsoring the Facebook Live portion of the show, which is on Hell's Kitchen's Facebook Live feed if you ever want to watch it live. And thank you to Twill in the Edina Galleria, Fixology Repair, 3rd floor of the Mall of America by Nordstrom's. Thank you, John Hedges, who's here again tonight, and Crown Bank for sponsoring the podcast version of the show. All right, tell me about Matt Cullen and the signing. How did it come about?
They finally hired Cullen. My mother was right a year later. Remember she threatened.
She's always right.
She threatened Craig Leopold, and she went up to him, said, "You better hire Cullen." Yeah, well,
I do everything your mother says.
Yeah. I mean, the Cullen thing has been, it's kind of like in the realm of Backstrom and all these things. It's like, all right, no more questions, thank God. Earlier in the summer, a lot of Penguins fans went after me when I basically made it very clear that I thought that if Cullen played, it would be with Minnesota. Then as the summer got longer, I started to think that I knew that he was working out and things like that, but you started to get the impression that maybe that meant that he was going back to Pittsburgh, especially when you did the Wild's cap situation. And then yesterday, I was pretty much told that the decision would come today, but I was also pretty much told that he was very much leaning toward returning to Pittsburgh, and I think he did the kind of stereotypical or the proverbial "I'm going to sleep on it" thing, which coincidentally 18 months ago I did, and I wound up sleeping on it. I thought I was quitting a job, remember, and I wound up staying at the Strip. But it's kind of the same thing. I think
in your case, it's not sleeping on it.
Yeah,
though.
I know.
It's tossing and turning on it.
But I really think that minds changed overnight. And I think that he really started to think about, I talked to him a couple times today, and the last time I talked to him, which was about an hour ago, I got him he answered the phone while he was coaching a hockey game, by the way. The one thing, but that is why he's staying here. What he told me on this call is like, look, this was a family decision. I want my kids to be able to play at home and watch me play hockey at home. And he didn't feel like that really was being done in Pittsburgh. And it made it a little easier. They got rid of their house in Pittsburgh. And so, essentially if he went to Pittsburgh or Minnesota, it'd be kind of the same thing. He's starting over in terms of getting a house, getting his kids situated with school and things like that. So I just think that at the end of the day, he really looked at this twofold. He would not have come here, I don't think, if he didn't think that he could win. The last couple of weeks, I really started to think, though, that he would look at this situation and say to himself, look, this could probably only end in disappointment. They're one of 31 teams that's going to win a cup, but what really are the chances? And you know what? I might as well go for the three-peat, and there's an incredible allure with that. But I think he really started to investigate this team. He talked to Stahl a lot recently. He talked with people in the organization. There's even been through back channels, people close to him have started questioning me on things with this team. And I just think that he started to think, look, this was the second best team in the conference last year. They ran into, for some reason, they just couldn't score in the first round. And I really think that this team has a chance to win. And yeah, are they a Stanley Cup contender? I don't think he's coming that expecting that they're a front runner, but I don't think he would have just come here for one final season if he didn't think that he had at least a viable chance of winning. And that's why, according to Chuck today, it was Matt Cullen that didn't want actual performance bonuses. He didn't want games played bonuses and assist bonuses and face-off bonuses. He wanted playoff round win bonuses in his contract, which I think says, one, about the class and integrity of Matt, but two, the fact that he is coming here to win in the playoffs, and this is not about him just getting a final money grab in his career.
So many times you hear good things about players, and then when you're around them on a more daily basis, you're like, okay, yeah, he's fine, but he's maybe not the greatest guy that you heard everybody. Cullen, in my eyes, has always been legitimately a great guy, not just for media, but for teammates, for organization. He's a legit.
He is a gem of a human being, and that's a fact. I mean, I said to him just now when I was driving over here that this is my third stint covering him. He's now the Russo record. I've covered guys like
what
Parrish.
What a thrill for him.
Yeah, I know, Parrish and Philip Kuba and Serge Payet and a couple guys twice like Matt Cullen, but this is the first time three, and I'm genuinely excited about him being back. I think he'll be good for the locker room. We've talked that there are sometimes issues in this room. I think adding him can only help. But I do. You see all the charity work that he does with Cully's kids. I was the last couple of days just kind of talking to his wife about his August 31st Stanley Cup party that he's having. Originally, I thought that he was going to do something where it was going to be completely private because last year he made it so public. But no, I mean, he is bringing that thing to the Children's Hospital. He is going to bring it. He's going to have some more open events publicly, and then a party at a restaurant there that actually, now that he's signed here, I think I'm going to go and cover the day. Just to do stories on everything that's going on that day. So, I'm going to go out there and probably go with Mark Parrish to the party and things like that. And then I will say to you, I'm not going to give it out, but the next day, there's going to be something really cool that he's doing with the Stanley Cup that he's working out the details on now. So that's going to happen. And also a little scoop is that September 1st, I believe the Cup is going to be at the State Fair. So just because it's in Minnesota, obviously for Cullen's thing. So I think they're going to kill two birds with one stone with the centennial of the National Hockey League. I think the Wild get the Cup for a day. And so they're going to bring it to the State Fair that day. But I think earlier in that day on September 1st, Matt's going to do something really neat with the Cup that he's not gotten a chance to do in his two previous Cup victories.
Cool. I want to thank Twill and the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com, longtime sponsors of the show. We've been down to the shop right there off France, again, in the Edina Galleria, thanks to Scott Dayton and his staff.
For most guys, shopping for clothes isn't their favorite thing to do. That's why Scott Dayton opened up Twill in the Galleria 12 years ago. He wanted to create a relaxed, one-stop shop experience for guys. Twill carries many of the best brands in clothing and is the only Peter Millar crown shop in the upper Midwest. Twill carries everything from suits and weekend clothes to shorts and t-shirts or even a new outfit for the golf course. You can also put your company logo on just about anything there. When it comes to men's clothing, Scott Dayton and his staff have over 100 years of experience. Check out Twill in the Galleria in Edina or online at twillmn.com. And make sure to mention the podcast.
Tell me about Brian Murray.
Oh, man. That hit me hard the other day. I was in Michigan when I found out, and I knew that obviously I knew that he stopped chemotherapy, so it was just going to be a matter of time. But he's the first GM that I ever covered. And if you don't know Brian Murray, he's coached the Washington Capitals, Detroit Red Wings, the Florida Panthers, the Ottawa Senators, the Anaheim Ducks. He's been GM in Detroit, Florida, Anaheim, Ottawa. And 3 years ago, he was around the draft. He was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. He has spent the last couple years of his life trying to stave off what he knew was a terminal disease. Well, unfortunately, when they discovered the cancer, it was absolutely everywhere in his body. And so what he was doing was just kind of delaying the inevitable. And finally, he stopped chemo. But he has spent the last couple years of his life trying to campaign to everybody to get colonoscopies. This is something that, and it's really sad because both his parents lived very long in their lives, and he died very young, and it's because he never got a colonoscopy. He says that would have saved his life. The doctors told him that they think the cancer was in his body 10 years, and unfortunately it got out of his colon and spread everywhere. And so, he spent the last couple of years trying to just tell people, and actually Brad Shaw, who's assistant coach in the NHL, a lot of people in the NHL, when he was diagnosed, took his advice, and Brad Shaw, she found a golf ball-sized tumor in his colon and had it removed. And I think Brad says that he believes that Brian Murray inevitably probably saved his life, even though it was benign but had a chance to turn into cancer. But Brian, he had grit to him, but he was extremely hilarious, and deep down under all that grit and exterior, he was one of the nicest, caring human beings I ever met. He always, just a great guy. I mean, I have the most hilarious stories about him. He is the reason why Chuck Fletcher and Brent Flair have careers in the National Hockey League. Started their careers really in Florida, brought them to Anaheim, brought Brent Flair to Ottawa. And then, obviously Brent has become the number 2 here. And so I talked to both Chuck Fletcher and Brent Flair a lot about Brian. I'm going to do a big story on him next week. His funeral is Tuesday, and his day of celebration actually at the arena in Ottawa is Thursday. But one of the early educations of my career when I was a young 20-something sports writer is the Sun Sentinel, the old newspaper that I worked for, had a partnership with the team, kind of like the Star Tribune, the Pioneer Press do with the Wild. And one of our sponsorships was that next to my Sunday column, that the coach of the team would do a column. And so Doug McClain started off as the coach. Well, he got fired. And so I go up to Brian Murray, and I say, hey, just to let you know, you got to start writing a column for our paper. And he's like, F that. I'm not fucking. So what we came to an agreement was that I would ghostwrite it. So here I am, pretty much a rookie beat writer, and every week I got an hour or more in the office of the coach and the GM, and it just turned out to be an incredible education about the sport, about the history of the sport, his philosophy on hockey, the team. Inevitably, it led to scoops on the team. And it just turned out to be an incredible, relationship building thing for him and I, but also the fact that I was able to really learn the game through Brian's eyes. And it also turned out to be a real good thing for my relationship from the standpoint that a lot of times he was ticked off. That was a horrendous year for the Florida Panthers. At one point, they had a 13-game winless streak and a 13-game losing streak and a 15-game winless streak. During that season. That was also the year they traded their first-round draft pick. That turned out to be Vincent LeCavier going to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Huge mistake. But on that subject, I told the story yesterday, but over at the Sun Sentinel, I graded each player and coach and the GM, and I gave Brian Murray an F for GM and coach. And I did it for midterm. I did it over the All-Star break. And so the All-Star break was in 1998. It was in Vancouver. They had gone winless in the first 5 games of that trip, and then they picked up the last 3 games in California. And we get to Anaheim, and I make a left turn by the Panthers locker room, and he makes a turn down by the Anaheim locker room, and the entire hallway, which is probably the length of this restaurant, he is mother effing me as the entire way down. All I hear is like F and F. You give me an F and F. And he's just like absolutely, and he is just lighting into me. And then I had to go back to the Hilton Suites with him and sit in the lobby and do our Sunday column, and that turned out to be one stressless situation. But he just but that was him. I mean, once he got it out, there were so many times where if he was pissed with you could say to him, "Man, it's really sunny today." I'll tell you about sunny, and he'll just launch into you, and then it'd be completely over with. I was telling Chuck Fletcher a couple hours ago that I have this weird recollection, and I always think of this for some reason when I think of Brian Murray. He had this habit of when he drank coffee, and I'll never forget the call. It would be the most brown coffee ever because he put cream in there, and he would always hold his little coffee cup like this angle when it was full, and I was always kind of mesmerized by this because it would be almost a game for me to see when the coffee would actually fall out of the cup and land all over his hands. And I don't know why that always is something that is entranced in my mind whenever I think of Brian Murray, but it's always there. I mean, it was every day where I just watch him in the morning skate, just kind of waiting for the coffee to spill over his hand. It's just weird. One of those weird recollections.
Well, my condolences. A sad story.
It was sad. I mean, he was very, instrumental to the start of my career. There's no doubt about it.
All right, let's take a break, and we'll come back, and we'll talk about some other things. We do have a live mic here with a lot of regulars. If you want to come up and ask a live question, please do. John, this is a great chance to give Fixology an extra plug when you get a chance. We do appreciate everybody who comes out for the shows and those who watch on Facebook Live. We'll get to some Facebook Live questions as well later. Do want to plug Fixology Repair, 3rd floor of the Mall of America, up by Nordstrom's, fixologyrepair.com.
There are some things in life that you just can't live without. Now, whether it's a special piece of jewelry, a watch, or even your smartphone, you want it in working condition. At Fixology Repair, we are committed to restoring your pieces so that everything works or fits the way it ought to. Watch servicing, chain repair, and broken screen replacements are just a few of the services that we offer at our 2 locations. Please visit us at fixologyrepair.com or at fixologymn on Twitter to learn more. Mention this ad and get a 10% discount on our services.
Also, welcome to Aaron Williams, who came down and has been taking pictures of empty chairs and just wondering when Russo's going to show up.
Today it was earlier than most days.
That's true.
So first time down here.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I want to just say that Jim, been an avid follower of all the podcasts since the very beginning.
Well, thank you.
Love when Roy Smalley talks batting.
Yeah.
Russo when he rants, and let's see, AP Sports guy. He's good in basketball, so I love them all. So
thank you. Appreciate
you very much. You're doing a great job.
Well, I was about the only thing I've done right in this venture is pick good co-hosts. That's kind of the key.
Well, that helps.
Yeah.
So my first question, I'm probably going to end up having a few of them, but I wanted your thoughts on, I think is it Will Butcher, the defenseman, and where he might go or best opportunity?
Well, I saw today, I think he's going to Vegas. I've always felt that he was going to Vegas, but it looks to me like other teams like New Jersey, Buffalo, Chicago, some other teams are involved. I think people, Detroit, I think people are mentioning Minnesota only because he's from Wisconsin. But when I talk, while the Wild have expressed interest in him, I don't get the impression that they're overly chasing him, and that's a big difference. And I've inquired with both Brent and Chuck, and while they absolutely like the guy, I don't get the feeling that they view him more as a depth guy. I think they think that other teams are much more interested than him. And as far as the other college free agents out there, I just don't get the impression the Wild are really in on many of them. I mean, they might have some interest, but none of these guys, I think are game breakers. I mean, Butcher is obviously Hobie Baker, but undersized defenseman, and I think the Wild feel depth-wise right now that they have a lot of depth in that situation.
Let's do a few Facebook Live questions, and if nobody asks the question, I will ask you myself what's going on with Kaprizov. It seems to be quite a lot of intrigue around him. From Tony Hoagland, who sponsors our football show on the network and is your insurance agent, who's happier with the Cullen signing, Russo, so he doesn't have to take questions about it, or his mom?
Definitely my mother. I gave her the scoop an hour before just so she didn't bother me when I broke it. So let's put it that way. But she was very, very excited. Yes, she will not have to the Wild hired Cullen.
And thanks to your mom and Barb Rules and some of the other people who are watching. Somebody's ripping me for the way I started the podcast. I deserve that.
That was weird.
Absolutely. It was very strange. Let's see. Scott
Caught
Carlson
me off guard, and
in.
it doesn't take a lot.
No, I was going to say, you're always distracted. I can always do that. For Alec Fisher, does Cullen make the roster set? Set.
I think so. Again, when I do the math, I see them awfully close to the cap, so you just kind of feel like they're going to have to make a move, maybe trade a player, but not that Chuck Fletcher is going to sit there and tell me what his plans are here in the next couple weeks, but Chuck says that is not the case. That if by chance that the bonuses make them go over the cap, first of all, you're allowed to go over the cap by 7.5%, so they're perfectly fine there. And if they go over the cap, then that just is an overage next season, and they're not worried about that because again, Koivu's off. Well, maybe hopefully. From a Wild fan perspective, maybe hopefully he's not off the books, but there's going to be a way to afford that if they for some reason have an overage next season if they need to. But they're going to be awfully close to the cap. I mean, right now I think that there's very little breathing room once they get Foligno done. So I don't think that everything's always set in stone. If somebody blows the socks off with a trade, there are people talking about, there are just all these rumors flying out there, and the Wild have no cap space right now. So I wish the people that make up these rumors would actually maybe go to cap friendly before they throw this stuff out there to stop me from headaches from dealing with Twitter people asking if the Wild are going to sign this guy and that guy and that guy when all you need is. You don't even need a calculator. You need a pencil and a paper to realize it's not going to fit.
I think John Hedges should come up and ask you if you can sign this guy and that guy and that guy.
Jim, I actually was going to do that as I walked away, and you killed it.
Sorry.
So anyway, I figured I was up here. I may as well just shamelessly plug my business further.
Please,
so.
Go right ahead.
But, it's mid-August. We're coming up to September, and then when things start going crazy with the holidays. But it is worth noting that the new iPhone 8, which will be launched this autumn, and if you have something to trade in, if it's in one piece and functional, you'll get a better credit back for it trading in. So we're going to get really busy doing phone screens over the next couple of months with people preparing to upgrade to the newest one. So if you have one that's broken, I'd say do it now while we're still a little quiet, because in about a month and a half, we are going to be off the wall busy doing that.
When's the 8 come out?
I think it usually launches November, but Samsung and Apple have both been pushing theirs earlier and earlier to try and undercut the other. So I don't think the data's released. I would expect it to be earlier than it was last year.
What's your, not that you're doing an endorsement for either, but so many people tell me that Samsung's better than the iPhone. Is that true?
I personally prefer the Samsung over the Apple. I prefer the interface. I like the customizability. So I don't like how just basic Apple products always are. So I have one Apple product, which is an iPod I was given when I was 13. So that's pretty much it. But Samsung, if I can do it. but so can you.
And did you have a hockey question?
Are they going to sign that guy?
Who?
I don't know. I got nothing. We're waiting on Foligno. I figured now that Cullen's happened, we'll probably see some traction with Foligno.
Yeah, you would. I mean, I will say, I said to Cullen's agent today, I said, you leave a little money for your other guy? Because just coincidentally, Matt Cullen's agent is Marcus Foligno's agent.
I RTF'd the B, so I got it.
So he says that there's money left over for Foligno. I don't know what is the delay here. I will say that I think that as Newport often is, which is his agency, I think they get a little overzealous with what they're asking for in terms of original contracts. So my guess is that his numbers are way over 3, and the Wild feel that's out of whack and are just going to etch it down. Chuck did give me the old thing. Nobody's in a hurry this time of day. It's hard to get guys, agents on the phone. I'm like, Chuck, you're giving me the line that you give me all the time about a player who's the client of the the agent that you just signed Cullen to. So don't give me you can't get the agent on the phone line when you just, are calling me right after signing Cullen, but whatever. I mean, they're going to get him done. I mean, Marcus Foligno.
He's a Boudreaux player for sure.
I mean, there's no way that Marcus Foligno. I cannot imagine. I don't know him great, but he seems like a very smart guy when I talk to him. That he's dumb enough on his being traded to a team that you're going to get into a holdout situation with immediately after coming to this team. Just seems like something that they're just waiting. I mean, as Chuck Fletcher likes to say, nothing prods progress like a deadline. Well, the deadline is September 14th. That's training camp. And as long as he's done before that, nobody's going to care. Foligno's clearly working out, getting ready. I think he knows this is a business. There's no bad blood. They'll get him done. Like I said, even as far back as the day that Granlund signed, Chuck Fletcher said to me on the phone that he thought that Foligno would go to Labor Day. And even kind of Pat Morris, when I talked to him today, Foligno's agent, he kind of said Labor Day. So maybe there's this could be totally off base and maybe bad conjecture or speculation, but the fact that they keep on saying Labor Day makes me wonder if there's some sort of, from a financial, real cash point of view, that there's a signing bonus being played at some point here that they just want to almost, it's kind of like when you have a fiscal year at the Star Tribune and you got to get a bunch of airline tickets bought before, it almost makes me sound like they don't want to sign. There's some reason why they don't want to sign him until September 1. So
is your phone going to work? Are you going to have the internet on your trip? Vicky's got the information, though, so we're okay.
Nice.
Got it. Thanks to Crown Bank, crown-bank.com, our longest-running sponsors, locations right near here, downtown Minneapolis, also in Edina.
Your banking relationship should match your lifestyle. And if your lifestyle is to live well, you want Crown Bank. You want a bank and a banker who will give you what you want and what you need without a hassle. Crown Bank is responsive. From ordering checks to making you a loan, they build a relationship with you that will help you get what you want so that you can live well. Crown Bank. It's a lifestyle choice and the place to do business. Member FDIC.
Longtime listener Scott Carlson asks, where does this leave Foligno? I think you've kind of explained that. How about Jacob Burkhardt asks, now that the Wild don't have any cap space left, who do you think plays with who?
It's a good question because last time I talked to Bruce Boudreaux about lines, which was in mid-July, which just will now what I'm about to tell you is going to give you a little what Bruce's thought is that he said to me that if they sign Cullen, so you know that even back a month ago they were thinking this, that maybe what he would want to do is move to Eriksson Ek to a top 9 wing role. Which to me sounds weird because then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take a pretty good top 9 wing and put him on your fourth line. And I don't know if you want to be. I mean, the whole point of Ennis is to get him to play. I mean, the guy he used was Ennis, and so I just don't think that's a good idea. So, but I don't think they want to put Eriksson Ek on the team if he's going to play fourth line wing. Fourth line center, I think they were fine with because he would have gotten quality minutes and played more in a PK role, which he could still do, I suppose, but. It'll be interesting to see how that all happens. In terms of other lines, a lot depends on whether or not Niederreiter, and I'm going to talk to Parise tonight, but Niederreiter, Parise, what position that they, want to play at. I think Bruce is going to give them that ability. But but right now I think it's really difficult to come up with lines until I talk to Bruce again. That was so long ago that I talked to him, and I know Boudreaux well enough at this point to know that he changed his lines. I mean, every night that he is in bed, he's actually thinking about this stuff. And so, originally he was talking to me about putting maybe the Koivu line back together with Granlund and Koivu, Granlund and Zucker, but then he was talking to me about maybe you put Niederreiter with Parise and Stahl, but then maybe you put Coyle at center there. And so I think there's a lot to think about with lines.
Do you and Bruce text each other at 3 a.m.?
No.
Would you
I did
tell
talk
me
to
if you
Bruce.
did?
I did talk to Bruce today. Bruce let me know that I had a
3
bad
a.m.?
that I gave him a bad scoop yesterday when I told him that I thought Cullen was signing with Pittsburgh. So
it was great seeing the text he was getting during our talk this morning.
Yeah.
I can't tell you who they're from, but it was funny.
Yeah, I will say that when I do think that the Wild, when all of a sudden they found out that Cullen was making a decision and that he was leaning toward Pittsburgh, I think it did make Chuck Fletcher spur and just kind of remind him, hey, we want you, we want you, we want you. And so it actually probably helped the Wild that it got out yesterday that Cullen was so close to making a decision.
By the way, we're going to start doing some high school sports shows here. 2 Wednesday nights a month with John Millay, Minnesota State High School League, former Star Tribune writer, has really cut an incredible niche for himself with the Minnesota State High School League. Drives in a marked car all over the state, finding the best high school stories. He's a really good storyteller. He's a really good guy. We're going to do that show right after the Russo-Souhan show tonight, and just follow us on Twitter and Facebook and everything to find out future schedules. Basically, every other Wednesday, we're going to do that show as well as our 6 o'clock show here at Hell's Kitchen. From Kyler Vasferet, I know I've mispronounced his name 85 times. I'm just going to apologize because I'm always going to get it wrong. Did Chuck paint himself in into a corner with cap space left after signing Cullen? Will he have to make a trade to loosen up some space?
Well, that's what we were just talking about. When I do my elementary math, it does seem like they're way too tight. But, Chuck is not going to paint himself in a corner now by telling me we have to make a trade, and then I'm on his back for the next 3 weeks looking for one. So I still suspect that they would like to, get rid of a salary. I said to Cullen today, I said, hey, you think you'll get Stewie's number? And he didn't even realize that Stewie had his number. So maybe it'll be Stewie that's traded. That'd be the type of money I think that the Wild would love to get is that type of $1-point-something million contract. Where I think that, what could Chuck have done in terms of salary cap this summer to get a, more space? I mean, if you don't make the Ennis deal, you're probably not going to trade Pominville and Scandella. So then all of a sudden, you're still up against the cap as it is with Pominville and Scandella here. And the only one that I, still question is giving the one-way contract to Riley, and then why were they under such a rush to go sign Quincy at 1.25, I think it was, on July 1. I can't imagine there was a lineup of teams that they like, oh my God, if we wait 2 days, we're not going to get Quincy. And if that was the case, then who cares? I mean, I just think that extra $600,000, I just think that there would have been somebody that you could have gotten for half price, if not Quincy for half price a couple days later. And now that $600,000 is huge. So that's the one that I to go with Kyle's point there, I would say maybe is the closest. But look, I mean, there's nothing you could do about the way that the market headed this summer. Guys like Granlund and Niederreiter had to get paid. So the only other option was to trade them. And if you trade them, you're probably taking back assets that you're going to have to pay that type of money anyway to. So this is just kind of the natural evolution of a team that has a couple guys on 13-year deals, and sometimes things are always going to be tight.
Yes, sir.
And by the way, every team in the league is pretty much at this point now. I mean, I was looking at something today to figure out if the Wild did go over their cap next year based on bonuses for Eriksson Ek or Cunnin or Cullen. What would happen, and then I was shocked to see that there's about 9 teams that went over the cap last season that are going to have overages this season. This is not something that's unique to Minnesota.
You guys, how does Cullen signing potentially affect the culture in the locker room?
Culture?
Yeah.
I think it can only help.
Thank you.
I think it can only help just knowing the type of person he is. I mean, Parise loves him. He loves Parise. Stahl is his best bud. I talked to Stahl today, very, very excited. And I will say, Matt psyched a lot of guys out. I don't think I'm giving away company secrets when I say that guys like Mark Parrish, who's buddies with him, didn't think he was coming here. I don't think Stahl thought he was coming here. I don't think Parisi thought he was coming here. As of yesterday, I was pretty confident he was not coming here. Something changed overnight where I just think he had second thoughts. Maybe the Wild, by it getting out, that he was going to sign today, by it getting out by me, on the radio and telling Chuck when I talked to Chuck yesterday about Kaprizov, and so I kind of said, hey, by the way, I think Cullen's coming to an end here. So maybe that stuff did spur it, and maybe that got Cullen thinking again, because, again, as of yesterday, from people close to Matt, I was pretty sure he was signing with Pittsburgh. I wouldn't have gone on the radio and been that strong about it if I didn't think that was the case.
Michael Brandon is asking the question I was going to eventually get to, which is, what is going on with Kaprizov, basically? Any possibility he exercises the KHL player buyout and ends his contract, comes over?
Well, I don't know if the Wild don't even know if there is a player buyout in that contract. They have not seen the contract. They don't know if they can be bought out, and it's not like Kaprizov has the money to go buy out that contract unless the Wild are going to, secretly backdoor help him with that deal. It's just a shady situation. There's nothing else that I could say about it. Kaprizov will be the thing that's going to probably drive me to being 10 feet underground. I mean, because this one is not going to end. This is going to be Backstrom times 6 because it's just not going to end.
Take it easy, dude.
Sorry.
What do you think you are, a bouncer at the Flamingo?
The good news is we have Fixology here that if I did drop it, we can just hand it to him.
Let's not test his skills.
Yeah. So, he signed a 3-year deal there. He did get rid of his agent here. Everything's been lost in translation. You have Team Russia, who is sitting there and deciding whether or not this guy could play in the World Championships based on whether or not he's going to sign in his team. And then holding the Olympics over his head. I mean, that's the equivalent to USA Hockey deciding who the Wild sign. Although that might have been the worst example ever since they kind of did that with Greenway. So scratch that. But
nobody heard it.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like there's so much pressure under this kid that we don't know about that is from outside influences. This is not, first of all, remember this guy was basically playing in Siberia last year. He was not in Moscow, so it's not like Chuck Fletcher could have just gone on a plane and stolen him out of Russia. He's playing for a team that's run by, to use a bad hombres, as our president likes to say. I mean, oil companies and the mob, and I mean, literally Putin's got his hands on this particular franchise. This was not something that I think if the Wild could figure it out better, they would have tried to a little harder to get in front of this kid. But again, during the World Juniors, they wanted to talk to him. They weren't allowed to. They met with the agent. They met with the girlfriend. Girlfriend's telling him about how she lived in the States and how she is, how Kaprizov's learning English and he wants to play here, and they're trusting all this. And the next thing you know, the North American-based agent can't even get this kid on the phone the last 6 months. And then all of a sudden, the day after he publicly says, I'm not signing the deal, he signs the deal. I don't think you need to, it doesn't take a lot to realize that this kid was dealing with a lot of,
outside influence?
Yeah, outside influences. This just isn't a normal situation. This isn't like going to get Granlund in Finland or, look at Sokolov. I mean, here's a kid that should be playing international hockey in Russia, and he's being punished because he played in the Canadian Hockey League. So that's just a fact. So I don't know if we'll ever see this kid. He signed a 3-year deal. Well, the 3-year deal probably takes you up to the work stoppage. And if there's a work stoppage, then he's going to be afraid to sign a contract because then they will send him to Iowa. There's a reason why Chuck Fletcher earlier this summer publicly said to me, so he would read it, that, look, play out your year, and when you come here, you are on our team, you're not going to Iowa. He wanted Kaprizov to read that. Because they couldn't get that information to him. Like, we are not sending you to Iowa. You're coming here to play. And for some reason, he was forced to, he signed this 3-year deal. So I don't know if we'll ever see this kid. And it's a shame because he was a good draft pick.
So let's get the official business out of the way. Backstrom, your mom, what have you bought lately?
He's listened to a lot of shows.
Yeah. I have bought a lot of stuff.
And then the actual real question is, dealing with Kaprizov, are we dealing with like Soviet-led Russia where you got to go in and literally steal out your player?
Yeah, I know. I mean, Brian Murray used to do that with Konstantinov and Fedorov. He'd steal them out of there. Bure's dad brought Pavel and Val over here. It does certainly seem that way, but this is just, unfortunately, there's no transfer agreement, so the legalities are out the window here, and so it certainly feels that way. Where you just can't get this guy, in front of him. I don't know deep down if the Wild maybe could have done something different to get over there. Obviously they, the one thing I think they probably do regret is they didn't have a Russian scout. Not that that particularly means anything, that a Russian, just because they have one Russian scout, they somehow would have gotten in front of this kid. But maybe that is something that they feel they probably should have maybe done a little better, is try to develop some sort of influence or to have with this kid. But I think they just trusted that everything would be done in normal, proper channels by just going through his very reputable agent over here. Now, but here's another example, at least the Wild claim, that they think that he has another North American-based agent right now, but they don't know who that is, which is weird. Now, I don't know if they're just telling me that because they don't want me to get in touch with that agent, but I can tell you the PA doesn't know who that agent is, and the Wild's not at least divulging it, and they're claiming they don't know. So right now, I don't know who that agent is, if there is indeed one.
And obviously when it says PA, he means Players Association, just to clarify. Russo slacks, always with his finger on the pulse of what makes you tick, asks, how did the wiffle ball wars go?
Oh, man. It didn't go well. I said to Parisi the other day that I was the worst player on the field, but then he told me Parisi was the only team that I didn't play, and Parisi said that he went 0 for 6 with 2 walks and a couple strikeouts and didn't touch the ball in the outfield once. So maybe I wasn't the worst player on the field, but my guess is I was the worst.
I would guess you were worse than Parisi. Yeah. That's just my guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It went well, though. It was a good little charity function. I think that next year it'll be much, much improved. Afterwards, we kind of had a summit and decided to cut some of the things that could have been better, and I think it will be better next year.
Another question.
One thing that I think needs to be better is people not taking it so seriously. I mean, people are just throwing ridiculous stuff in there. I mean, it was not.
It's wiffle ball. You're not going to get hurt.
It's not even that. It's like people are just throwing all this junk that starts at your head, lands in the middle strike zone.
Excuse making.
It's supposed to be for fun. I would rather play slow pitch softball.
But watching you strike out by missing pitches with 3 feet, that is fun for the rest of us. Okay? You weren't there because you're a good player. You were there so we could laugh at you.
I know that, and I lived up to that.
Okay, sorry, Mom. From another one from Kyler, he asked, what do you think the top 6 will look like in 3 years? He knows it's a tough question, but if you want to play a game and project out.
I mean, if you're assuming that guys like Greenway, I'm not going to put Kaprizov in there anymore by any stretch of the imagination, but if you're throwing Cullen, Eriksson Ek, Greenway, I think there. But, I would need a little paper in front of me to try to figure that stuff out. Ask me that question. Send me an email and I'll answer it.
By the way,
I'm in front of my laptop and
we talked about your
depth charts.
We talked about your Scotland trip and your wiffle ball wars, and we always talk about your travels. I took a cruise last week with my wife.
Yeah, I haven't asked you about that.
What would it take to get you on a cruise?
I went on a cruise a couple years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, to Alaska. I love cruises.
Did you? Okay, so I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Have you been on like a Caribbean cruise?
I went on a when I was a kid. I went on the Oceanic. It was called in like the early. To Bermuda and to Nassau. And then I went on a bachelor party cruise on Carnival that was pretty much garbage to Nassau. That was rude. And then, like a 3-day Carnival cruise. It was not very good. And then, but the one to Alaska was amazing. The excursions were awesome.
My wife has gotten me to swim with whale sharks and dolphins now.
Wow.
And you know me, I never would have even thought about any of that kind of stuff before.
Yeah.
We have a million more questions we could get to, but as the show is closing here, for the last 5 minutes or so, what else do we need to talk about? Is there an issue we haven't gotten to with the Wild or the NHL?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, while you think about it, I will again preview the show that's coming up. John Millay from the Minnesota Sports State High School League, former Star Tribune writer, now does great features, great pieces on high school sports around the state. Hell's Kitchen does such a great job reaching out to people around the state who come to town and end up coming to the restaurant. We figured it'd be a natural fit to have a show with John talking about stuff all going on over the state. So you can either stay here and watch that. You can stay on the Facebook Live feed and watch it. We're also, experimenting with other ways you're going to be able to watch these shows. So that's a new addition to MNSPN.com. Thanks again to our sponsors, Surly Brewing, Jack Daniels, Finlandia Vodka. For the podcast version of the show, Twill in the Edina Galleria, Fixology Repair, and Crown Bank. And now, Michael, now that you've had time to think about it.
I didn't think. Shameless
you
plug,
just spaced
the
out.
Beauty League feature tomorrow's strib. Actually, I would read it online because we had to trim it for the paper after Cullen signed. That was an unbudgeted story, so all of a sudden we had they're much longer online, and to me, much longer means better.
Oh, there's no question. The more you write, the better it is, Michael. That's what we all talk about in the office.
Yeah.
I have to regain my composure after saying that.
Vicky,
the Beauty League. Is it just for diehards, or would the average hockey fan or average sports fan get a kick out of going?
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, John Scott's there tonight, but I think it's fun. I mean, it's fast, it's exciting, it's 4-on-4, it's offensive, it's laid back. They're having fun on the ice. It's for charity. If you bring your kids, it's so easy to get autographs, whether you do it by the railings or you just,
That's right. Michael Russo will sign autographs.
If you go behind Braemar, by the player exit, I mean, you're going to get every player that's in and out of there to get an autograph. I mean, that's just the really cool thing about these guys. I mean, I wrote this anecdote as my lead for tomorrow's feature about this kid that's 11 years old that got Hala and Bukestead to sign his forehead, and he was just so excited about this. Said he's never washing his face again. And there's actually a lot more to this kid's story. I won't even get into that. But that's the type of thing it is. I mean, these players like Bukestead is so genuinely nice when he is meeting and signing autographs for these kids. And you just see. Ben Hankinson has a really good quote in the story where he says these guys are all smart enough to realize that they were that kid once too.
Right.
And that there's just something special about the state of Minnesota and the fact that in the middle of the summer on a Monday or a Wednesday night you can get a couple thousand people in Braemar to watch hockey.
No question. One last Facebook Live question. Thanks for everybody sent in questions on Facebook Live and Twitter. We obviously don't get to all of them, but we appreciate the input anyway. Prediction for points, regular season. How far do they go this year? Come on, make a prediction.
Is that Kyle again?
It's from Mike Wasik.
Okay. I don't like those type of questions.
I know you don't. That's why I ask you.
There's no easier way to turn me off on Twitter than to ask me what % chance do the Wild have of signing Yager or something. I'm not big into the whole percentages or predictions. I mean, you see my predictions every year, so I'm not going to give that. But thanks for watching.
And Aaron Williams asked the most important question tonight, which is, what does it take to get blocked by you on Twitter?
I don't know. Depends on the day. Like today, I'm extremely tired. I woke up at 3:40. Some guy ticked me off on Twitter.
He has a hard job,
and
people.
I just bounced him right away just to save myself from getting fired. Every time I block somebody on Twitter, it's to protect me and my Italian temper because I never react immediately, but all of a sudden I'll be like driving an hour later and be like, no, I'll come up with a comeback. And then that's when I'm liable to say something stupid. So sometimes I just get rid of them to get rid of them. This one I kind of regret, but he's still blocked. So, Tim Kawakami from The Athletic just did this thing where he had a Twitter amnesty where he
blocks people every day. He blocks 20 people. It's amazing.
I probably will not do a Twitter amnesty. Yeah.
And on that sad note,
actually, it is my style. There's so many people that I didn't use the line today. I said to Jim, our opening line at the breakfast this morning was I would say, "All right, guys, which one of you, any of you have I blocked on Twitter?" So that was going to be like what I started off by the things. But I have anybody that's ever written me and said, "Look, I'm sorry," or blah blah blah. I've always unblocked them, and then. I joined the cigar club in town, and one day I walk in there, and this guy's like, "You blocked me on Twitter," and I'm like, "All right, what's your name?" And I went in there and I unblocked him, and that's happened a couple times. Recently, I can't remember the story, but it was in the last couple of weeks where somebody's like, "Please unblock my friend; he's harmless," So I usually do. Like, you have to seek me out to do the amnesty. I'm not going to, like, all right, guys, we're going to have a little telethon.
Because he's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks to everybody who came down. Thanks to everybody who watched on Facebook Live. Thanks to everybody listening later at mnspn.com. Again, we'll tell you more about our collaboration with the Mixed Sports Radio and how we'll be packaging and distributing the show going forward. Thanks to Hell's Kitchen, as always, for having us. 9th and Nicollet. Between Nicollet and Marquette, come down for lunches, breakfast all day. You know the deal. It's an institution. Michael, thank you.
Yep. Next Wednesday, is that the deal?
Next Wednesday, Michael and I will be here at 6 o'clock again. This Friday.
Almost, probably next Wednesday. There's a chance.
Follow us on Twitter. If you're not blocked, follow us on Twitter. He'll tell you whether he's going to do the show with us. I'll also tell you, and I won't block you. Yeah. And also, this Friday, 5 o'clock on this stage, Sports from Hell. This week it's myself, Tim Yoder, previewing the Vikings game in Seattle, and Lavelle E. Neal III previewing the Twins game over at Target Field. Once again, thanks to everybody. Up next, John Millay and what we might call Prepapalooza, or we might come up with a better name for that. We'll see. And give Michael a hand. He likes that.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in ice. And I used to call it home. So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world won't forgive a winner.
Security threats are everywhere. But with Xfinity XFi, you're notified of threats to your in-home Wi-Fi network, so all your connected devices are protected. That's simple, easy, awesome. Switch to Xfinity today and get a great offer. You'll get fast speeds and the best in-home Wi-Fi experience with Xfinity XFi. Plus, ask about enhanced security for safer browsing and more. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit an Xfinity store to switch today. Restrictions apply.
Is your cell phone bill out of control? Then this is your wake-up call. The new TracFone Wireless gives you unlimited talk and text starting at $20 a month, no contract, plus unlimited carryover data with active service. Yep, the new TracFone Wireless. Now you're in control. See terms and conditions at TracFone.com.